Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Cody and welcome to my presentation of underwater crime scene investigations. First, a little about myself. I'm a 16-year veteran of law enforcement and most of those years were spent as an investigator. Because of that, I feel I'm very well versed in investigations of many types. I also spent several years as a police diver on the underwater recovery team. Today I'll be introducing you to the types of crime scenes, the environments, the equipment, and the dangers involved in the profession. Let's first start off with environments. Underwater crime scene investigations can take you to many different environments, from oceans, such as the beautiful ocean shown in this catalog, lakes, rivers, although those are less frequent, swamps, channels are where we frequently see boat and diver accidents, ponds, both man-made and natural occurring. Behind me you see is a man-made pond. It's a typical environment that we find underwater crime scenes. The most common outside of the natural and environmental environments or scenes we find is pools. Pools are a frequent location for drownings. Besides the environment, there are a lot of other things that are involved in the processing of underwater crime scenes. That brings us to the topic of tools. I have several tools that are used in the profession and processing of underwater crime scenes. I'm going to introduce you to several of them. Here I have some basic pieces of equipment for the scuba diver. Now, according to PADI, the Professional Association of Dive Instructors, SCUBA, or S-C-U-B-A, stands for Self-Contained Underwater Breathing Apparatus. Just two quick pieces of equipment that are used for diving in general are what's called a BC, or buoyancy control device. This is worn by the diver over their shoulders. It's used to control the position in the water, whether it's ascending or descending. This piece of equipment is connected to your dive tank, your air tank. This is where you breathe your air. Now this is not a dive class, so I'm not going to get into specifics, but there's several other different pieces of equipment. Because of the environments that we dive in, we need to also utilize protection for our bodies. There's several different types. Here's just two examples. This is what's called a shorty or a Farmer John. This is anywhere from 3 to 5 millimeters thick, and it protects you from the cold, but it does leave, as you can see, your arms and legs exposed to some of the dangers that you face. This is frequently called a skin. This is much thinner. It's a little old. It's been used quite a bit. This, however, protects your arms and your legs a little bit better. Okay. Other pieces of equipment that are used are fins. These in particular are Scuba Pro Twin Jets. They're quite expensive, but they are some of the best in the business, and these are frequently used by police divers. A couple other examples of equipment. These are underwater lights that are used for search and for navigation. They're specifically sealed to be used underwater in the environment. This is a strobe. This is sometimes held by the diver, strapped onto their chest or their tank or any part of them. And when it's turned on, it emits a very bright strobe light, helps you locate fellow divers. These are called carabiners. These also attach the diver in different locations, different configurations. These are used for attaching pieces of equipment to the diver or for using ropes to navigate, and the ropes basically go through here, and there's different configurations to use. Another piece of equipment, which is a very important piece of equipment, this is called an AGA mask, A-G-A mask. This is used mostly for commercial diving, especially for police diving. What this is, this allows the diver to concentrate more on their job than worrying about the regulator, which is the piece in their mouth, from falling outside of their mouth. This is a full face mask. The diver applies the entire thing to his face. The air is connected here, and the diver simply breathes just as we normally do every day. This piece of equipment, this is called a dive link. This attaches to the equipment, and there is a microphone and a transmitter, and this allows the diver to speak to the surface units at the surface in a boat or other divers that are diving along with them. It's a great way to communicate back and forth about what they're seeing, what's happening down there, what they're supposed to be looking for, any kind of dangers. So that's the dive link. Two more pieces of equipment would be the dive knife. Extremely important piece of equipment. This is kept on every diver. Several of us wear them in different places. For instance, on our arm, on our legs, or on our waist. This is used not really for protection like a lot of people might think, but it's used most commonly for entanglement, which is one of the dangers that we'll discuss shortly. Another piece of equipment is an underwater slate. There's all different styles, all different types. They now even have electronic ones. And basically this is used to communicate to other divers. You know, so if you need something underwater, you can simply write them a note and they can see it, and it eliminates the amount of communication you can do with your hands. The last piece of equipment I'm going to show you is what we call a SMIPO. S-M-I-P-O-E. The SMIPO, with all our expensive equipment that we have, the modern technology and electronics, this is the most important to the police diver. The SMIPO stands for Single Most Important Piece of Equipment. This rope is used for many different functions during a search, especially in a pond like this. The rope is used not only to communicate back and forth to divers on the surface by a series of different tugs and pulls, but it's also used to search environments such as this. One example would be what's called a circle pattern search. You would have a diver or something heavy on the edge of the body of water. The rope would extend and the diver would do patterns back and forth, and this would get extended several feet at a time, and it allows them to conduct the search. Again, it's the most important piece of equipment, not only for the most effective searching, but for the safety of the diver also. Let's talk real quick about some of the dangers that are faced by police divers in these environments. Again, this is just one environment. If you could see the water, which is kind of difficult to see, you'll see that it's almost completely brown, very, very, very dark. So one of the common dangers is visibility, low or no visibility whatsoever. Diving for police divers is not like you see on the covers of these exotic magazines where there's beautiful reefs and all kinds of fish. It's generally dark, if not completely black. Another risk would be the risk of entanglement. Lines from a heavily fished area or trash that's thrown down. Those things can be entangled in our divers, and again, that's the reason why we carry several knives. Another deadly danger that's faced by police divers and any divers is a situation of out-of-air emergencies, where the diver runs out of air. It doesn't happen very frequently, but it can happen. However, a very common occurrence is the loss of orientation. When you're underwater and the water is either black or you have no visibility, it's very easy to lose your orientation, whether that's left, right, up or down, or even if you're upside down. One of the most common things that are searched for in underwater crime scenes is vehicles. Sometimes the penetration of these vehicles is required by divers, whether it's to retrieve victims, drowning victims, someone that's trapped inside the vehicle, or equipment inside, or simply to make connections to the vehicle to remove it from the scene. In our larger bodies of water, our rivers and our canals, some of our ocean environments, divers face currents. Currents by themselves are not necessarily dangerous. However, if they're not handled correctly, the diver can be swept away, lose orientation, or can be fatigued very easily. And fatigue can really, cut the amount of diving that the amount of underwater time that a diver or a team can have. Another example of a danger would be the marine life, whether it's sharks, although that's not really a very common problem. In the freshwater environments, again, such as this, police divers face the threat of alligators and snakes. That's very common to see, although it's not generally a specific danger that we encounter down here as far as not having incidents of attacks or anything. They are always there. And another danger of the waters is the pollution of waters. Some of our environments, such as down by docks, by fishing docks, by where boats are kept, or spills, whether it's an airplane crash or a boat spill, there's biological dangers, there's fuel spills, there's chemicals. Those also present a danger. And in that case, that's when the Ogden mask can protect the diver's face. We also have dry suits, which can completely cover the diver. Unfortunately, I don't have one to show you. Now, to use all this equipment and to do all these searches, the divers have to go through extensive training. again, PADI, the Police Association, the Police Association of Diving Instructors, produces many volumes on police diving. Divers are required at a very minimum to have a PADI or a NAUI certification or a certification from a recognized organization. The next step would be certification as an advanced diver. Now, for the Lee County Sheriff's Office, it's a minimum requirement to be an advanced diver to try out for the dive team. PADI also has a public safety diver curriculum, and that is more specific. It comes away from the recreational diver and starts introducing the diver to more of the police, public safety diving, and underwater crime scenes. Nitrox, which is diving with an increased amount of nitrogen in their system. It poses certain dangers, and because of that, the specialized training. Cave diving is also another training certificate and experience that can help a police diver. Though there's not a lot of caves in this area, the techniques and the safety requirements that are learned in the cave diving class is very applicable to searching vehicles or boats or anything that's underneath the water. Formal schooling, such as the Miami-Dade Underwater Police Science and Technology Program, which is on the East Coast. That is a 2-week course that's very rigorous and specifically designed for police divers. Another extension of training would be the Dive Master. The Dive Master is one step below a dive instructor, and that is a very specialized, very difficult rating to get, but again, that's another form of formal training. And for an organization such as the dive team itself, in-service on a monthly basis is generally conducted, where the team will get together, they'll go to a dive site, they'll practice diving, they'll practice certain techniques, search patterns, stuff like that, so they're prepared for as much as they can be. Now, a couple of quick facts. Florida is covered by over 12,100 square miles of water. That's according to the U.S. Geological Society. So you can imagine how frequent it is for us to find crime scenes that are underwater. And again, this could be anything from a ditch on the side of the road to a 115-foot dive out in the ocean to recover a diver that's drowned. Now, all of these things may make someone question, why would you want to be a police diver? Well, I can tell you from my personal experience is there's a lot of satisfaction in the training and the practice in putting it all together and having a successful recovery mission. I could tell you also personally that one of the satisfactions that I've gotten as a police diver is to give closure to some of the victims. Sometimes these cases involve, unfortunately, the death or passing of a loved one, whether it's in a vehicle accident, a construction accident, or an accidental drowning. And for that reason, there is a lot of satisfaction in that. That's pretty much my presentation. I hope you have enjoyed everything. Again, we reviewed the environments, whether it's lakes, oceans, rivers, swamps, channels. We've discussed a lot of the equipment, the rope and the protection equipment, the masks, the fins, stuff like that. One other piece of equipment that I didn't touch upon, actually a couple of them, robots now, modern technology. We have ROVs, or robots that can be controlled from the surface if it's an extremely dangerous environment. We use those. When we recover vehicles or very heavy equipment, even such as a safe, we have lift bags. Basically, unfortunately, I don't have one. A lift bag is connected to the item, it's inflated with air, and it can lift. In the example of a vehicle, you can attach one on all 4 corners, inflate it, and believe it or not, it can raise a vehicle all the way to the surface. One more piece of equipment is what we call a forensic underwater containment kit, and basically it's a empty can of paint. And an example such as a firearm that we're recovering, we can go underwater, place the item in the container, seal it, bring it to the surface in the natural environment that it was found in, such as the water, the sand, and it recreates what it was found in to bring to the surface. What that does is it allows the person who's going to examine the firearm or piece of equipment to, first of all, see what type of sediment and environment it was found in, as well as it stops the rust process. As you can imagine, as soon as you take something metal out of the water, salt water, rust is going to start as soon as it is exposed to air, and when you do this, that eliminates that. We've talked about the dangers. Again, one of the most important dangers are The most dangerous danger would be the visibility for the diver, entanglement, currents, penetrating the vehicles. We also discussed the training. It takes an awful lot of training before someone is ready to become a police diver. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I hope it intrigues you. I hope it fascinates you and maybe motivates you to go look at something on the internet about police diving, maybe even become a police diver yourself. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you for listening.